Back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. Now, here's a look at some of the pictures that were sent in to us on our eyewitness portal. First is this one showing a bad road in Abulegba area of Lagos. The residents of the area are asking the government to help them repair the road. From Lagos, we move to Asaba in Delta State, from where our reporter sent in this picture showing a terrible flood on the popular Summit Road. The people of Asaba are asking the government to deal with the situation. And lastly, we have this picture of a PHCN transformer in Ilorin, Kwara State being vandalized by members of the public. Our eyewitness reporter says the necessary authorities should please look into it. Well, thanks for sending in all your pictures, and please do continue to do so. Now, let's continue our coverage of the ministerial screening. And earlier today, the Senate postponed the screening of the former governor of Rivers State, Chibuike Amaechi, till tomorrow. The Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, said this became necessary because the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges, which received a petition against Mr. Amaechi's nomination, is yet to submit its report. Meanwhile, the president has withdrawn the name of Mr. Ahmed Ibeto of Niger State from the list of ministerial nominees. The president sent a letter to the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, notifying him of the withdrawal. It was gathered that his withdrawal may have been informed by the nomination of another candidate, Abubakar Gwari, also from Niger State. Mr. Ibeto served as the Senior Special Assistant on Protocol Matters to the immediate past governor of Niger State from 1999 to 2003. Then he became the Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Power, and later Chairman, House Committee on States and Local Governments. He was the Deputy Governor of Niger State from 2007 to 2015. Let's take a brief moment and move away from the screening, which we might return to a bit later. But for now, the Akpabio State Senatorial Election Tribunal has upheld the election of Senator Godswill Akpabio as the duly elected senator representing Akwa Northwest District in the March 28th election in the state. Justice Gudi Anuchi held that the petitioner failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt the allegations of malpractices at the polls. Our correspondent Amaka Okafor reports.
The tribunal venue was filled to capacity as both supporters of the All Progressive Congress and the People's Democratic Party in Akwa State gathered to listen to the verdict of the petition filed by Mr. Ibehi Okorie, challenging the election of Senator Godswill Akpabio as senator representing Akwa Northwest Senatorial District. In dismissing the petition, the chairman of the tribunal, Justice Gudi Anuchi, said the petitioner failed to prove his allegations of substantial non-compliance and malpractices because he failed to prove it polling unit by polling unit as required by the law. He said the petitioner witnesses testify based on hearsay, which in law cannot be relied upon to decide a case. The tribunal also said the petitioner failed to establish that Senator Akpabio's nomination was faulty. According to the tribunal, once the party submits the name of the candidate to the Independent National Electoral Commission, it is deemed to have sponsored the candidate. As such, the misrepresentation of Senator Akpabio's candidacy on the nomination form to vie for the Uyo Senatorial District rather than Akwa Northwest is a mere technical error that has no capacity to invalidate the election.
The judgment has come to establish clearly the fact that there was no petition validly before the court, and we are very happy. We congratulate His Excellency the Distinguished Senator. We congratulate Akpabio State and the people of the Akwa Central District for having made this wonderful choice. He was chosen based on capacity, and even in the few months he has said in the Senate, he has proven us right that we made a right choice. We thank the tribunal for delivering judgment in the way they have done. It still shows that in all situations, the court is still the last hope of the common man.
Reacting to the ruling, the petitioner vowed to appeal the judgment. He said the tribunal erred in law in upholding the election of Senator Akpabio.
This judgment will be tested at the higher court. I am very confident of victory. Victory shall certainly come at last. That is my position.
Even as the petitioner heads to the appellate court, the tribunal ordered him to pay the sum of 30,000 naira each to all the respondents in the suit as costs. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
And indeed, we return to our coverage on the screening. Now, for 6 whole hours, the Senate screened and eventually confirmed 18 nominees as ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Questions were asked, some very tough, and only former senators were spared. The nominee from Lagos, the former governor, Babatunde Fashola, Ogun State, Ms. Kemi Adeosun, as well as the nominee from Delta, Dr. Ibe Kachuku, spent the longest amount of time with the senators. But at the end of it all, they were all confirmed. And joining me now on the news at 10 to look at today's session is a professor of international law and jurisprudence, Professor Akin Oyebode. Thank you so much for joining us on the news at 10.
No sweat, Gemma.
But this is the same place you were seated about 2 weeks ago when we talked about it, and you had said you were very unhappy that the cabinet was not formed and the pace of government, you were not happy. Are you happy now?
No, we were waiting almost forever. And if it would take 4 months to have a cabinet formed, I wonder how long it would take, to really achieve the change that everybody was yearning for. But all's well that ends well. So far, so good. I have to sympathize with President Buhari because he was under tremendous pressure. If eventually he could find the noisemakers that will help him do the job. But quite sincerely, he's come up with a fantastic team.
Do you think it's the cabinet of angels then?
No, angels don't live on earth. They live in paradise with God Almighty. I think everybody brings on the table some baggage, in terms of inadequacy and question marks. But on balance, I think we have a rather good team, which has inspired a lot of hope amongst Nigerians that maybe eventually Nigeria will make it. We have a wonderful team, at least so far. By and large, these are excellent personalities who have real confidence in.
Are you saying that on the strength of what we saw today on the floor in terms of how they answered their questions? Were you satisfied with the responses that were given to the questions that the senators put to them?
No, I think it's cumulative. You look at yesterday, Kayode Fayemi was firing on all cylinders. Fashola, I think, gave them didactic tutelage in terms of governance. Because, he's performed incredibly well in Lagos in terms of transformation. And don't forget that somebody like Fashola was chief of staff to Bola Tinubu. So he knows the nitty-gritty of governance. So he was in his best elements. And I think everybody was dumbfounded. And I thought they now saw that...
It took him an hour, almost an hour, 30 minutes, well over an hour.
But, he is a solid advocate. And he could handle any issue. The beautiful thing about Fashola is his ability to think on his feet. He could, because the super advocate should be prepared for whatever comes up, either in the courtroom or even on the floor of the Senate. And I was not surprised.
Well, we saw today's performances, but we have 2 to go, and we understand that Chibuike Amechi will be screened on Tuesday next week. That's October the 20th, alongside Barrister Adebayo Shitu. Your thoughts?
Well, I know Adebayo Shitu. He is a very solid fellow. He might not be a senior advocate, but he is a rigorous lawyer. Rotimi Amechi is rugged, and he has paid his dues. In terms, he's a survivor. So quite sincerely, I think he's going to have a fine day. Look at Ngige. Ngige, ran through the proceedings like hot knife through butter. And also, when you look at the spokesperson, the propagandist, to use the language of one of the senators, the propagandist of the APC, I'm talking of Lai Mohammed. It was just like he was in a theater, a comical theater, almost like a circus, and he was asked to go. But what strikes me about the nominees is this level of self-confidence and panache with which they handled, in a very robust manner, all the missiles thrown at them. Some, of course, were given, as you will expect, the benefit of the doubt. But by and large, I think we have a wonderful team.
And so now that the cabinet is taking shape, what next?
Well, what next? I think the president will now have to hold the reins of his cabinet. These are not noisemakers. These are people of gravitas who will come out with policy proposals in terms of the manifesto of their party and in terms of the change mantra that President Buhari has used to bring himself to office. I think Nigeria is in for interesting times, quite sincerely.
Professor of International Law and Jurisprudence, always a pleasure, Akpabio, for joining us on the News at 10 tonight.
You're most welcome.
Thank you. Now, when the News at 10 returns, it's day 2 of the Nigeria Economic Summit, and issues surrounding strengthening of the economy and fighting corruption came up. Do join us again.